Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, let us see and learn about this AWS code build. What are the use case scenarios, and we even test this or we can even implement this hands-on in this video with a real-time use case. So what are the use cases? What are the real-time scenarios where we use this code build, sir? So this is the symbol of code build. This is you can represent in real time. This is how the symbol, and this is the another way to represent your AWS code build. Let's see what are the real time scenarios where we use this AWS code build. We use this code build when, let's say, I have some code. I want to test that code. I want to test that code. So basically, if you have any company, then you obviously need some website, right? Yes. So that website requires some code, right? Yes. So in order to run or in order to test that particular code with multiple sample test cases, you use this AWS code build. So for testing purpose, what you need to do, you need to compile the code and you need to run the code on servers, right? Yes. You can do all those things on top of this AWS code build. If you use this service, then you can able to your code, test your code by compiling and running the code on servers. Okay. So to test my code and to run my code, do I need to create my own servers in my backend? The answer for this is no. You don't need to manage the underlying infrastructure. It's a fully managed service. Here the key points that you need to remember, that is, the purpose of using this code build is for testing. So before deploying your application, any application to market, you first need to test it, right? Yes. So this AWS service, this AWS code build can provide you that facility. You can able to compile your code and you can able to test your code on top of servers where you don't need to manage the servers, because this code build is a fully managed service. And we also have another use case scenario. So for automation purpose, for continuous integration and continuous deployment purpose. So during that purpose, we use this AWS code pipeline. We use this AWS code pipeline to automate the process of CI/CD pipelines in real time. So we need some automation tool to automate the process of CI/CD pipeline. CI/CD indicates continuous integration and continuous deployment. So in order to do that automation, we use this AWS code pipeline. This is the service in AWS where we use to do that CI/CD pipelining. So during that process, also during automation purpose, while utilizing this AWS code pipelining also, you can able to use this code build in order to test your code by compiling that code. And you can even generate some artifact files, some artifacts, and you can even further use those artifacts to deploy on deployable services, that is AWS code deploy. By using this AWS code deploy, you can able to deploy whatever the application that you want to in AWS. So this makes it very easy to deploy. Basically, in this video, we'll focus more on AWS code build. but I'll give you a overview about these services in order to perform. So why do we need to use this AWS code pipeline, sir? If you want to perform automated CI/CD pipelining process, then you can choose this AWS code build, code pipeline. So basically, developers will mostly prefer this because developers, what they do is, so if any client came to them and asked them to develop some application, they first need to develop some application, then they need to store that application. So in order to develop that application, AWS provides you Cloud9 service. There actually they develop their application by using AWS service. Or else if they want to develop on their own IDE on their local environment, then it's their wish. There also they can able to develop. Basically, they prefer Cloud9 compared to other own IDEs because if they use Cloud9, then they don't need to manage the underlying servers, and even they don't even they can able to share even they can able to share that code with multiple persons at the time of writing that code. So that's why mostly developers prefer Cloud9 service. So during writing the code, so let's say one developer, my developers team written the code. Now I need to store that code, right? Yes. To store that code, to store that code, we have in AWS, we have AWS code commit. So there you can able to create your own repositories and you can able to store your code and you can able to manage your code. Or else you also have S3 buckets. There also you can able to store your code and you can even able to manage your storage cost effectively. Then after storing, what they need to do, they need to test the code that was stored in these, right? Yes. So they need to test that code again. Before deploying that code, they need to test that code because one developer may develop one service and another developer may develop one service. So after developing all the service and putting all those services inside these, that is either AWS code commit or S3 buckets, they need to integrate that whole code, right? Yes. So after integrating, they need to check the functionality of code, whether it is providing the functionality that client is asking him. So for that checking, he need to compile and run that code, right? That whole code. Yes. So for that, they require some servers, right? Yes. So without managing the servers, just for compiling, running and testing, they have one service available in AWS, that is AWS Code Build. So by using this service, they can able to compile and run and test the code which is present in these sources, that is either AWS Code Commit or S3. In real time, we use these two more. So that's why I provided these two figures. But we also have some more options. Those I will show you whenever I'm opening the lab. Then after coding, then after testing, let's say the integrated code, the whole integrated project code is working well, then they need to deploy that code, right? Yes. So before deploying, after compiling, running and testing, this code build also generates some artifacts. These artifacts are nothing but binary coded data that we cannot able to read directly. Those will be generated by using this code build. So why these artifacts are useful, sir? For me, why these artifacts are useful? These artifact files are useful for you to deploy your code easily. You can able to deploy these artifact files by using AWS code deploy, right? Yeah. So to deploy whatever the source code integration whole code that you have, that code you can able to deploy by using these artifact files by using one AWS service, that is AWS Code Deploy. Even after creating these artifact files, so who creates these artifact files or who generate these artifact files are these artifact files are generated by using AWS Code Build. So after generating them, you can able to put them under S3. Under S3, you can able to put them. Then you can able to use them again for deployment purpose also. You can able to use those artifact files to deploy actual code by using one more service, that is AWS Code Deploy. So if you are a developer or AWS developer associate, then you must need to have knowledge on all these services. Then only in real time you can able to face the real time scenarios. So I hope you got some knowledge on these services. Now we have seen where to store our data, where to compile and test our data, and where to deploy our data. So why do this AWS code pipeline is useful? In order to automate this whole process, that is storing or committing your data into either S3 or code commit, then after committing your whole data, we need to trigger we need to trigger some testing tool, that is AWS code build, right? Yes. So that triggering also done taken care by using this code pipeline. So after triggering, it will generate some artifact files, right? Then after we need to deploy our code or our application by using this AWS code deploy, right? Yes. So to deploy that also taken care by using this AWS code pipeline. So in this way, whole integration, whatever the data coming from multiple sources or multiple developers, that whole data integration and continuously deployment happened in this. Even in middle testing also happened, but in general we call this whole process as continuous integration and continuous deployment. So that will be taken care by whom? This AWS code pipeline. This AWS code pipeline will take care of all those things and automate the process of continuous integration and deployment. So now let's move back to our service, that is AWS code build. So what is the real-time scenario where we use it? So for testing our application code and for generating artifact files. So in those two scenarios, we use this code build. So that's the real-time purpose or real-time use case of this code build. So for this also, you don't need to manage the underlying infrastructure, that is since it's a fully managed service. Now let's use this AWS code build in AWS directly. So for that, let's follow the same scenario, that is manually I want to upload some code into this S3 bucket. So then after I want to compile that code by using this code build. Then after I would like to generate the artifacts. I would like to store that in another S3 bucket. So for that, how many S3 buckets do I need? I need two S3 buckets. I need one code build project. So here the compilation takes place under the project. Just remember, project is the place where your code compilation will be takes place. So now let's first create our source bucket as well as our artifacts bucket in AWS management console. So for that, I just log into my AWS. So previously I have already logged in. Now I opened my S3. I again search it for you to show you. I again opening my S3. Yeah. So under buckets, you have an option. Under buckets, you have an option to create your buckets. Now I want to create two buckets. So I'm just creating those two manually. I want to put one bucket as my source bucket. We need to provide a unique name globally. So that's why I provided a name like this. So I'm just moving on with the default options. Then I'm just clicking on a create bucket. Yeah, I think the name was already there. Bucket name contains invalid characters. So underscore is not allowed. Now I'm just clicking on create again by modifying that. You can see my bucket is created successfully. So this is the source bucket that I want to use like a source. In the source bucket, I want to upload some files. So first, let's create one more bucket, that is in order to store my artifact results. Now I'm creating one more bucket by using this create bucket option. So within the same way previously, however we created. So like that, I'm creating artifact bucket, artifact results bucket. So basically artifact are the files which are resulted from there. That is AWS code build. And I'm just clicking on create by just moving on with the default options. You can say I'm just clicking on create. Even that artifacts results bucket is also created. You can see on top that message is visible, successfully created. Now I want to upload some source code in this source bucket. Actually, I have previously made a zip file. Don't worry, I'll show you that zip file first. You can see I'm showing you this is my laptop file explorer. So in this I'm showing you inside this downloads. Inside this downloads, I have hello world.zip file. So in this I have a .c file, that is a hello world.c. In this I have written some code that is to print hello world. So that's I taken as a sample code. I'm just opening it to show you. You can see this is how the code was. You can see this is how the code was in internally. So it contains here the default libraries that we want to import. Those all I have included. I think this was included twice, so that's okay. No, not an issue. And in the main method, I am just printing hello and some string, where this string is nothing but based on the environment variable that we provided, that was printed. You can see this environment variable that I am taking from get environment method. So don't worry, I just used this get environment method in order to provide this name as environmental variable. So just to tell you one more option that is present in code build, that is environmental variables. In real time, what happens? You need to in real time we need to sometimes we may need to provide some variables during executing the code itself, right? Yes. So that we can able to provide by using the get environmental variable. So by using the get environmental variable, we can able to provide those details while compiling the code itself. So in the code, we don't need to mention those details, but by using these keywords, we can able to use these keywords to assign the values to these keywords. Then those will be taken as values for these, and they will be taken considered into environmental variables, and that will be implemented your code in real time. Now for this scenario, now I'm just taking only one environment variable, that is a name. Don't worry, while compiling my code in code build, I even provide this name, environmental variable name. Now I also have make file. I'm also opening that inside some notepad. So just once to show you what the code present in it. You can see these two commands are there. So what happens is these two commands will be executed whenever I call this make file. So whenever I run this make file, then what happens? Then it will take this hello world.c. So that is nothing but the code that we just shown you, and GCC is the compiler that we are taking, and we are running this and creating our output in hello world, and we creating our output in this hello world. And since this is the result generated, right, hello world, so since this is the result generated output written in this hello world, we store this as a result in artifacts file. So this is nothing but your artifact file. If everything compiled successfully, then you won't get any errors and everything at the output. So while running your code, at the output in AWS code build, you got a success message. If you see success message, then you can take into consider that your code is running successfully, your code is tested successfully. Like that, you can able to assume. Now I'm just uploading. So whatever the two files, that is hello world.c and make file in the form of a zip format, that is a hello world.zip. So in this hello world.zip, I have these two. So this I am uploading under my downloads, right, that I have. I just want to upload this right now. For that, I'm opening my S3 bucket. So here I'm specifying upload. Even you can check, this is my source bucket. This is my source bucket. Inside my source bucket, I'm uploading the file. I'm just clicking on add file, and we need to select that. Under downloads, I have this hello world.zip. So I'm just clicking on that. You can see that was uploading. Yeah, that was selected. So that size is there. Now I'm just clicking on upload so that this zip file got uploaded into my S3 bucket. You can see uploaded successfully. So here also you can see succeeded message is there. Now we have this zip file. I'm just closing it. So in my source bucket, I have uploaded my zip file, where this zip file contain two files, one for actual code and one for make file to run whatever the codes that I want to run. So where you compile and run your code, that is either C code or any application code, on top of servers only, right? Yes. So on top of servers, how do you run those programs or application files? By executing some commands, right? So if you are running a Python file, then py space whatever the file name that you want to run, that you provide. So in similar way, here we used GCC. So by using that compiler command, we run it that hello world.c, and we storing that output in hello world, and then we are considering that as the artifact, and we store that in another bucket, that is in this artifact results bucket. So that was taken, that result creation, that result generation, this artifact file result generation or storing will be taken care by AWS code deploy. So now we created two buckets. One is a source bucket and one is the artifact results bucket. In source bucket, I have uploaded my source zip file, and in artifacts currently no data is there. So since we haven't run at least once our code build, so nothing output got stored here. Now what I want to do is, since I having code in this bucket as source bucket, I want to run that code by using code build. So that's why I'm opening my code build. So you can see that was showing. I'm just opening that. Here we actually create our environment and we actually run that code. So here you can see multiple options are there. So this is the code build. This is the source. That is this is about code commit. This is about a code artifact. This is about your code build. This is about your code build. So here all the options belongs to your code build service. These all options are belong to your code build service. So basically you create one project. So on top of a project only, you can compile and run your code, whatever it may be, application code. So that you can able to run on top of these projects only. And one more point is, so on top of these projects, we need to specify environment, what type of, on top of what type of environment we are running. So basically in code build, how on top of what environment your applications are running is on top of Docker container images. On top of Docker images, Docker containers, actually your code will be run. So whenever you start this project, whenever you start your build, then actually one or multiple Docker containers will be generated. On top of those, they will be run your code. So based on the make file that you provided, or based on the commands that you provided, based on that only it will be run. Since our aim is to run whatever the code that we uploaded in my source bucket in S3. So for now, we create one project. So here you can see an option is there at right side. So you can click first here under build projects. If you click on under this build projects, then you get to this page. Then you just click on create project on right side. Then a page will be loaded like this. Here you actually create your project details. So basically it contains 3 sections. So those are, I'll tell you. So basically this project name is used to filter multiple projects. In your company, you not only have one client, right? You may have multiple clients. So for that multiple clients, you may create multiple testing environments, that is multiple build projects. So in order to identify particular project for particular client, you need to provide some name for this project to identify that project among multiple. So currently, let's say this is my Hyderabad client project. So I provided Hyderabad HYD client project 1. So in order to identify that easily, I provided my project name like this. Then additionally, you can also have options to select, write some description to identify this, and you can even enable the badge. You can even provide the key value pairs as tags. So I'm just leaving those optional details. Then, so first we just provided the project related configurations, that is the project name. Now we have source configuration. So where our actual data or application code is present to be compiled. So which application code that you want to compile, that is present, that you need to specify here. So basically, while explaining what I told you, you can able to store your source code in S3 or code commit, right? Yes. So you can see few more options are there. You can able to store GitHub. Under GitHub also you can able to store, Bitbucket also you can able to store, and GitHub Enterprise or GitLab self-management. So these are the multiple AWS multiple sources that this code build project supports you to take that code, and it can able to compile and test that code as well. So since for this demo, I've provided my code under my S3 bucket. So that's why I'm selecting this S3. Now I'm specifying that bucket name. In source bucket, I have that. So that's why I specified this. And object key, or so what is the S3 folder? So this you need to specify. If you have any internal folders, on those internal folders, if your code is there, then you need to specify this folder name as well. Basically, we stored our data inside one folder, that is I'll show you in S3, and we can even copy that. So basically we stored as a single file, but in real time that's logically a zip file. nothing but a folder. So that's why we need to provide that name as well. I'm just opening my source bucket. So inside this, I have hello world.zip. So this is a folder. So that's why I just copied that, and I'm just pasting this by forward slash. So after this, so it just moves to here. Then after that, I have my application related code. So that I can specify like this. Then we need to select the environment. Here we have two types of environments, that is a reserved capacity and this is on demand. If you want a reserved capacity, that is if you have any reserved instances, then you can use this reserved capacity to reduce. Let's say you have some reserved instances. So in that case, to reduce the cost, you can choose this. Currently, I'm moving on with on demand capacity. And you have two types of images. I have told you, right? So on top of containers, on top of Docker containers, so based on the images that you provided, these codes will be run on top of your Docker containers, right? Yes. So that you need to specify here which type of image that you want to select. You want any specific requirement, that is your code need to be run on top of this particular environment only, then you can select this. Let's say you want to run your code on available operating system, that is available images, AWS managed images, Docker images, then you can select this. That is AWS will already manage some images for you. You can see multiple images that AWS manages for you, where on top of those images you can able to run Python code, Java code, C code. So like that, many codes you can able to run on top of those. Let's say you are running a new type of application where that related the type of application related compiler is not available on top of managed images, then you need to create your own image in real time. Then you need to choose this custom and specify that here. So specify that so that that will be taken. Now I'm just moving on with managed images. Since I want to run C language code that is available in Ubuntu, so that's why I selected this managed images. Now I'm just moving up. You can see we have compute selection. You can use this EC2 or Lambda service to run your code and to test your code. Now I'm just moving on with the EC2. If you choose EC2, then we need to select the operating system. So currently on Ubuntu, I want to run, since that GCC command related to this Ubuntu server. So that's why I selected this. And runtime that you need to select, I'm just moving on with the standard runtime. Images, you have multiple images. I'm just moving on with the latest version. Always use the latest image. So that's, I'm just moving on. And service role, you want to create new role or you want to use the existing role. I'm just moving on with the existing role. Then yeah, so I provided these details. So let's recap. We provided our project related configurations to identify our project, and we provided our source details where our actual source is present. So here in this folder, I have my source C program file, that is application related code file is present. And in environment, we have provided on top of what environment we want to run our application, that is on-demand provisioned mode or reserved provision mode, or on environment image. So what image that you need to select, that is managed or custom images. Currently I'm moving on with managed image, because in this managed image it provides me a compiler to compile my C code, that is application code. So that's why I selected this. Then you have compute environments, on what compute environment you want to run, that you can select. If you select this Lambda, then you have also ability to select what is the runtime limits. So up to what time that this code will run on top of your Lambda, that also you can have ability to select if you choose this Lambda. Currently I'm choosing with EC2 server. So on this EC2 server, I am providing all the details relating to operating system, runtime, image, on top of what image I want to run my code. And I also provided some existing service role in order to create all these, and in order to manage all these by using this project, that is it needs to pick the data from S3 bucket, and it needs to run the data on top of my EC2 instance, on top of this operating system, on top of this image, right? So in order to build that particular server or get that particular data from my source, I need to provide permission. So that's I have provided by using this ARN. Then you have additional configurations. So here you need to focus on one more option, that is environmental variable. I just expanded this. You can see environmental. I'm just expanding this one more time. You can see if you scroll it up, you have environmental variable. So while showing you the code which is present in my C program, so there I'm asking get environment. By using that function, you can able to get the environment details, right? Yes. So by using that, I specified you can able to get the environment details. So there I provided name as my name, environment variable name. So for that, so whenever this name came, that there I want to provide some value, that is a, let's take a test as the value. So that need to be provided. So that's why I provided this as my environmental variable. Not only this, you can even able to create the parameter, and you can even able to add multiple variables or remove the variables that you providing, and you can able to even take the parameters which are present in your system manager, or your variables even present in parameter store, those also you can able to take from here. So I'm just closing this. So here also, if you use this EC2 also, you can have option to take care regarding how much time your code will be run, your application will need to run for particular request, how much time your code need to run for testing, how much time you need to run. So that also you can able to configure here by using timeout, and so up to what time your build need to be wait inside your queue, that also you can have ability to provide. So that's it. All the other options are optional, and here you can have ability to select the compute as well, how much amount of memory and CPUs you want. So based on your requirement, you can select. So currently I'm moving on with the default option. You can even select at where, if you want to put your whole project related servers under particular VPC, then you can select this and put under particular VPC. So for privacy and security, currently I do not have such issues, so that's why I'm not selecting this. I'm moving on with the default options. So that's it. I'm just minimizing this add additional configurations. Here we provided one important one, that is environmental variable. This build spec. So this is also one more important thing. Build specifications. What is this build specifications, sir? So basically in this build specifications, you have multiple options. That is in order to configure your specification, like on what commands that you want to run and what source that you are taking, those you can able to provide here. Now I want to tell you about this build specification. I want to show you how to create this build specification. First, you must need to provide this version. So what is this version, sir? So this version is nothing but the latest version related to your commands. Then you also need to specify the phases. So in these phases only, you actually write your own code. That is you actually implement your commands. So basically we have few phases, that is a build phase is there. We also have install phase is there. we have install phase is there. We also have pre-build. Before this build, we also have pre-build stage is there, and we also have build stage is there. Then we also have post-build stage is also there. So in these phases, we have these 4 stages. Here we can able to write our actual commands. So in these stages only we actually write our commands to run our code. So basically these all are optional. If you have any requirement, then you can write these all statements, that is all phases. So based on your requirement. So for current scenario, I don't want all these. Then you also have one more parameter, that is env. So what is this env, sir? That's nothing but environmental parameter. If you are using a Linux EC2 instance, if you are using a Linux EC2 instance, then in that scenario, you need to provide your EC2 user name. So whatever by using what EC2 user, by using what EC2 user profile, you want to execute all these commands. So that you need to provide here. So in order to execute all your commands. So currently I'm using a Ubuntu, so that's why I don't even need to provide this build specification, environment detail as well in this build specification. We also have proxy. We also have proxy option is there. If you want to test your code on top of proxy servers, then you can able to write this and you can able to use those as well. Let's say you want to process batch jobs, so then batch option is also there to process your batch jobs. So currently I'm not expecting. And at last you have 3 options are there, that is reports, and you also have artifacts option is there, and you also have cache option is also there. So this reports actually used to store your reports. That is how many codes are run successfully, how many codes are passed successfully, how much time does they take. So those all things you can able to mention. Those all reports you can able to get from this report. So currently for now, so for this small example, I don't require this as well. And this artifacts. So what does this artifacts, sir? So I have already told you these artifacts are nothing but result files that are generated. So while running your code, so let's say I want to run my code which is stored in that file, right? What is that? Hello world.c, right? So that you need to specify here. Inside my make file, make file, so I have that code in order to run that commands, right? So in order to run my application, if I execute this make command, then whatever the gcc -o hello world, so that hello world is nothing but artifact file that we need to specify here. To store my result, I need to specify that as files. Inside the files, we need to specify that hello world. So that's I'm used in my code, right? Yes, so that even I'll show you. You can see under my make file, I have this code. So here I'm having this hello world. So this is where my output is stored after compiling. After compiling by using gcc, this application code, that is a hello world.c. So that will be stored in the output result, and that artifact I want to store in a particular place, right? So that we're gonna specify in further configurations. I'll show you that as well. So here, in order to mention that this is an artifact file, we used this, and in order to run the commands present in my make folder, make file, so we specified under phases, under build, under commands, we used this make file to execute all the commands which are present in my make. Then this cache. So if you want to store any cache, then you can use this. Currently, I'm not expecting. So I'm just expecting to run my code. So by using this file, so what are the code present in my hello world.c that got run, and output artifact file will be generated and stored in this artifact file name, and that artifact file I want to store as a result in my artifacts folder. So that artifact folder also we need to configure. If we move up this build specifications, then we reach to this artifacts folder. So here we need to select currently in order to store my result in my artifacts file. So those artifacts files we can able to store currently only in S3. In future may they increase the destinations. So in bucket, in which bucket do you want to store? Currently in artifacts result bucket I want to store. So I want to store it inside my result folder. So that's why I provided this result as a folder name. Yeah. So let's recap what are the things that we see. So build specification. In this build specification, we provided the specification details regarding our build. So what commands that I want to run in my build project, and where I want to store my result, that is in which artifact file I want to store my result. Those two we have provided. So by using this command, the date that whatever the application code that will run successfully and store the result in this artifact file. Then I want to store these artifact files under my S3 bucket. So that I specified here in this artifacts. Then I'm just storing that inside my results to store those artifact files. And so that's the thing. We provided the project configuration, source configuration, and we provided environmental details, and we provided a build specification. We also provided this artifact details. Other options are optional. If you want, if you have any requirement, then you can choose that. So currently I'm not having any requirement. If you want to store the logs as well, you have two options. I'm just removing this. You can see two options is there. CloudWatch logs is there, and S3 bucket logs. S3 logs are also there. If you want to store your logs under S3, then you select this and specify the bucket name and which folder you want to save, that you save. If you want to save under this CloudWatch logs, then you just enable that and provide some group name, where in that group name your actual logs will be saved. So currently I'm moving on with some default name. Even we don't need it. That's it. At last, you just click on create build project. Your project will be built successfully. Now it is creating. Invalid location, S3 location. S3 source location is invalid. So I think it came due to this. We need to update this zip file folder after creating my bucket, after creating your build project. Since it assumes that like a file, not like a folder, after creating, then it will, this build will compare or will check the data, and then it will consider that as a folder. Now I'm just clicking on create. So here we need to specify the folder name. Okay. I think these causes the error. Again, output name must be valid S3 key. So where the output name, output we specified as artifact file, and there, yeah. So here we provided this, yeah. This folder we cannot able to provide, that was taken by default, or you can provide the existing folder name as your output. I'm just remove that result that I've just provided. You can see that is created. Your project created successfully. You have successfully created your project. Now you can see So that zip file is taken. Now your project is created successfully, and in project history I did not have anything. In project build history I did not have anything. In build batch history also I did not have anything. Build triggers also nothing will be happen till now. So that's why it will show you no results. And matrix also empty matrix is there. So after running this, you got all those metrics. That is your code, your application code will actually run after you're running, after you starting this. Then after you got these metrics related details as well. May take sometime. Then in this project details only, whatever the project details that you provided, those are visible here. You can even edit them by using this option. You can individually edit the project configurations or source configurations or environmental related details or build specifications, batch configurations, artifact file configurations, logs related configurations, or environmental variable related configurations. This we provided during creating the project. We can even use this edit option so to directly edit from so wherever we created, but this project name won't be edited after create it. Now I'm just running this, I'm just starting this build. If I start this build, then what happens is whatever the source whatever the application present in my source bucket in the zip file that got compiled, then my result got stored in this artifact bucket. So if everything goes correctly, then I got success message as my logs. I'm just clicking on start. You can see on top we have build started successfully, status is in progress. If you just scroll it up under build logs, you can see showing the last 5000 lines of your build logs. You can see, yeah, it was running. So it was successfully ran. Would not get, you can see succeeded. Uploaded your artifact states. Yeah, succeeded. So that means our artifact files got created successfully and they are uploaded even successfully. You can see whatever the commands that we run under this make, that is a gcc o hello world.c. So those all code was run successfully and we not get any error. We got successful message and our artifact file will be generated and that will be stored successfully inside our destination artifact. So you can even verify that by going to S3 bucket, open your artifacts results. That is, we have created a bucket for that, right? So open that. You can see this folder was created automatically by using this HYD client project one. That is a build project. And then inside that we have this artifact file, that is a hello world, that was created successfully. We cannot able to read it since it's a binary file. Now I'm just if you want, you can even able to download it and even verify that data. I'm just downloading it and I'm opening this as well. You can see this is how the data will be inside that. So I hope most of the data is not understandable. Yeah. So I'm just closing it. We successfully ran that and we can even verify that code, that is the file output that was stored in artifacts folder. So whatever the resultant folder that we created. So what we did in this particular section is we clearly understood code build AWS service. So by using that code build, what we did, we actually created some source file in the source bucket. Then we run that whatever the source file application code by using this code build, and we tested that whether it is running successfully or not. Then we uploaded the artifact result files inside another S3 bucket, that is a artifacts bucket, artifacts destination bucket, and we verified that as well. That is not understanding to us. So this is all about AWS code build. So this is how you can able to use this code build in order to run whatever the application data which is present in your S3 bucket or your code commit, and you can able to test that, and you can able to create some artifact files and store those resultant artifact files inside your S3 bucket. So I hope you understood this video and you got some knowledge regarding this AWS code build, that is a practical knowledge as well as a theoretical knowledge. So I hope this video is useful to you. If you feel this video is useful, then please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching again. See you back in the next video with another interesting topic. Until then, bye bye guys.